Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do a bit of a shorter kind of chatty video, which I have titled The Wheel of Time, Why Not and Why Now? So basically what I wanted to do was just talk a little bit about why, when I read so much epic fantasy in my younger years, why did I not read The Wheel of Time? And then from there, what is making me want to pick up The Wheel of Time now? So I did, and I think I mentioned this in a book haul, so I did buy the very first novel in the Wheel of Time series. So I had this copy of The Eye of the World, which is very beautiful, kind of floppy paperback, my very favorite kind of book to have. And I picked this up when I went into town to the bookstore because I have decided that I want this year to be the year that I start The Wheel of Time. So to completely talk about my Wheel of Time journey, I guess we have to go all the way back in time and talk a little bit about how I read fantasy. So this kind of gets into the first reason why I have never read this series. So the first reason is very simple. It is just access. When I was younger, when I was reading the bulk of my fantasy novels, I read what my dad had, which is why probably I skipped over that period of time where a lot of people read middle grade and young adult, because I didn't have any. I had a lot of children's books, so my parents had a lot of kids books for me. We had a bunch of picture books, etc. But once I had graduated out of that and kind of out of the early reader novels that teach you to read, I went right into what was available in my house, and that was the books that my dad had on his bookshelf, and he did not own The Wheel of Time. A lot of his fantasy books were older because they were books that he had purchased before moving to Newfoundland in the 80s when I was born. And he didn't buy a lot of books afterward, probably again similarly because of access and because financially we were not kind of super well off when I was younger and in that part of my parents' life. So we had the books that we had, and I read those and I reread them a lot, and The Wheel of Time was not one of those. So that was the first reason that I didn't pick it up. And then as I got older, the size became very intimidating. So this huge fantasy series, all the books were quite long. I didn't know if I was going to enjoy them. A lot of the people that I had talked to at the time, so my friends who read fantasy, which were few and far between because I didn't have a lot of friends who read the kinds of books that I read, but the opinions even back then were very mixed. Some people really loved them. Some people didn't really like them. Some people said, yes, you have to read them. Some people said, no, don't waste your time. And so it was really hard in an age before Goodreads, before BookTube, before any of these really helpful resources to discern whether or not this would be a series that I enjoyed. Fast forward a little bit more time to when I did have a Goodreads account and I could look into, what made up these books, why they were worth reading or not worth reading. And then I began to, through my research, began to discover things that I felt like would probably hinder my enjoyment of these books. So I still know comparatively very little about The Wheel of Time, except what you hear really commonly on BookTube. I don't go out of my way to watch videos about The Wheel of Time or any of those things. So the basics that I know is that these are very intricate in terms of world building, and intricate to the point of describing fabrics of clothing and minute gestures of characters and all of those really small details that some people really love because they feel like it brings this world to life and makes it feel so lifelike. But some people, and I am one of those people, I prefer my world building to be a little bit on the lighter side, a more organic world building that evolves through and around the characters, as opposed to being very exposition heavy or very description heavy. So I was a little bit worried about that aspect of the book. And then, of course, you hear so much about the slog. So those middle books, I don't know if it's supposed to be 7 to 9 or 6 to 9 or 8, I don't know. Whatever that middle chunk of books is known as the slog, I have seen and heard so many people go through that I started to get a little bit worried. I really don't like to DNF books, and so I will stick with them doggedly instead of moving on. And I felt like because I've been on such a good fantasy kick in recent years. I don't want to start something that is then going to drag down my whole TBR or make me feel like I have to trudge through. So that was another thing that kind of got in the way of me picking them up. However, since coming to BookTube, I have heard that this series is a favorite for so many of the booktubers that I really like. And this is where we will shift into the why now portion of this video. So reasons why I really want to pick up this series. Number one, it is a fantasy staple. I have, as I'm sure many of us kind of type A people have, this need to tick off the boxes. I love a good list. I love checking things off the list. I love accomplishing things. I love accomplishing goals. And so I really, really love those kind of top 100 lists of books, and I try to read the books on those so that I can appreciate the full scope of a genre. So I can appreciate all of the different things that are foundational to a genre. I like reading those foundational fantasy texts and seeing what inspired some of the authors that I really do love and what inspired some of the biggest names in fantasy today. And so that is one reason why I would really like to read these books. A second reason is that some of the people that I follow on BookTube, some of the people that I consider to be good friends on BookTube, they love these books. And there's nothing that I enjoy more than talking to people about the books that they love. I love talking about The Dark Tower. I love talking about The Lord of the Rings. I love talking about Red Rising. I love talking about those series that I'm so passionate about. I could talk to people about them all day long. When people write a comment or ask me something about one of those series or tell me their favorite part or their favorite chapter or their favorite book in the series, it makes me so happy. So I would love to be able to do that with the booktubers that I really admire and the booktubers whose content I really enjoy, because it brings me so much happiness to experience that I can only guess that other people would feel the same way. And I like making that connection. There's nothing that can bring two book nerds closer than discussing their shared favorites together. So I would love to be able to have that opportunity, not only with other booktubers, but with some of the people who follow along the channel as well. I know that some of the people who follow along here really love this series, and it would be great to be able to review it, to do character analyses, to do discussions, to be able to engage in that kind of way. So that is another aspect that has made me really want to pick this up. And then I guess the third and final piece, which is what provides the push, that kind of timeline push that I needed, was or is the adaptation. So the TV show that is coming out for Wheel of Time is really kind of lighting that fire under my heels and making me want to pick this up quicker. It's impossible to know before an adaptation comes out whether it is going to be well received, poorly received, if it's going to be a good visual expression of this series, if fans are going to love it or hate it. But I want to be part of that. I want to be able to discover this show as it comes out. And I don't like to watch these adaptations without having read the books. Now, do I think that I'm going to get through all, I think 14, I'm not 100%, I think there's 14, but all however many of these books before this show is released? Probably not. These are chunky. I tend to be a binge reader and I like to read series all at once, but I really don't think that I'm going to be able to do that with this one. And that's probably for the best, because I don't want to get burnt out. I don't want to have to DNF halfway through or anything like that. So I really am hoping to get at least the first few done before that television series comes out. And to be honest, all I really know is that there is a television series. Maybe it's not coming out until next year, and I do have a reasonable time frame to finish all of these books. I'm not sure, but I would like to at least get started before that adaptation comes out into the world. But overall, The Wheel of Time is one of those classic works of fantasy. I guess it kind of it toes the line now, because it is definitely a classic in the genre. It's a foundational piece of the genre, but it didn't finish until fairly recently. So I guess it is also modern in that way. But I just feel like it is a pillar, a cornerstone of epic fantasy, and I don't like feeling like I'm missing out on that. I have very similar feelings to the Malazan series, and I will probably do a similar video to this when I am ready to start that series. But I think that because of the push that the TV show is putting on me, I am going to start The Wheel of Time first. I am hopeful that I am going to read this book before the end of the summer. So this is on my radar for the next couple of months. I will not be reading it in June, but possibly in July or August. I would really like to read this first one before the summer is out, so that I can get a feel for the story, for the writing style, and see if this is something that I'm going to be able to do on a monthly basis, if I'm going to be able to do a couple books a month, if I'm going to do them every second month, or maybe I'll just really hate it and I won't want to continue at all. I don't know. That's very rare for me, so I don't expect that that will happen, but it is definitely a possibility. But The Wheel of Time, I feel like, is one of those series that has been hovering in the background of my mind for many, many years, and I am really looking forward to getting started. I think that I am finally at a place where I am ready to take on this huge series, and I am so excited to be able to chat about it with those of you out there who really enjoy it. So if you are someone like me who has been dragging their feet on Wheel of Time, please let me know in the comments. Let me know why and what has held you back from it. And if you're someone who loves this series and you love getting to talk about it with new people and you're really looking forward to the adaptation and all of the discussion that happens on BookTube, then please let me know that as well. And let me know why you love this series, why it's something that you feel so passionate about. This was a very, very strange little, like I said, kind of chatty video, but I just wanted to get some of those thoughts out there to, I guess, do a mini announcement that I will be starting The Wheel of Time on the channel relatively soon, and to hear from all of you about your thoughts about this series. It's a big one. It, like I said, is a cornerstone. Most people have an opinion one way or the other on Wheel of Time, and I would love to chat with you about yours. But that is all for today, and I will see you with another video soon. Bye!